They say water forgets, that it flows past everything and remembers nothing. But the brook behind my childhood home never forgot me. It still calls my name in the cold months. And if you stand there long enough, if you listen the way the wind listens, you'll hear it whisper the truth I once buried. The truth about the night everything changed. I went back to the brook the year I turned 70. The path was half swallowed by wild fern, and the air had that particular stillness that only Vermont carries before winter. A hush that feels like being watched by your own past. Every footstep broke the frost. The sun had slipped low, brushing the tops of the birches with pale gold. And when I saw the water again, it was like finding an old friend who'd been waiting in silence for decades. The brook hadn't widened or changed course. It still curved like a handwritten signature. My own. The same one I used to trace with a stick as a girl, pretending it was a river that led somewhere I'd never been brave enough to go. When I was 12, the brook was my secret. It knew what I couldn't tell anyone, not even Mother. I would kneel on the moss and whisper everything, the quarrels from the kitchen, the sound of Father's boots leaving before dawn, the ache of being the quiet one in a loud world. And the brook listened, always. The current never argued, never interrupted. It shimmered, as if agreeing, as if saying, "I know, Ellie, I know." I used to think that if I whispered my name to the water often enough, it might remember it for me, for the day I'd forget who I was trying to be. There was one night, the night the lightning struck the oak behind our barn. The rain came like fury. Mother had been shouting from the porch, calling me in, but I stayed by the brook. I wanted to see how wild it could become. The sky cracked open, and for a heartbeat, I thought the brook called out, not in words, but in a cry that sounded alive. The next morning, the oak was split in two. The air still smelled like fire and salt, and in the muddy water, I found something that shouldn't have been there. My little brass button from the blue Sunday dress I'd worn the week before, caught between two stones like a relic. That was the first time I understood what it meant for the earth to remember you. Then came the years when I stopped visiting. The brook turned into something children spoke of, not women with rent to pay and hands full of work. I married, I moved, I buried more than one dream. And yet, in every place I lived, I'd hear that same rhythm in the pipes, in the gutters after rain, a faint trickle that sounded like my name echoing from far away. I'd turn off the tap and listen. Always the same, a call, small and stubborn, saying, "Come back." When I finally stood by the water again all these years later, I didn't expect it to know me. But as I leaned down, the wind lifted through the reeds and carried something soft, a syllable, my own name. The brook was running slow, its surface glazed with the first thin layer of ice. And there, beneath the glass of it, I saw the reflection of every version of myself. The girl with cold hands, the woman with too many letters never sent, and the old one who'd finally come home. It was all the same face, bending toward the same light. And I understood then that memory isn't what we keep, it's what refuses to let go of us. I knelt and touched the water with 2 fingers. It was colder than truth, and yet it pulsed. For a moment, I imagined that the brook had carried every secret I'd ever told it, down through the valleys, through the rivers, until it reached the great ocean itself, a lifetime's worth of whispers, still carrying my name like a folded letter, sealed in glass. And when I closed my eyes, the sound of the current was no longer just water. It was a voice. It said, "You were never forgotten." The sun was gone. Frost was rising from the stones, and I turned to walk home, the path crackling softly beneath my boots. Behind me, the brook kept murmuring, and the mist began to curl upward like breath. It wasn't farewell, it was a promise that some names are not lost to time, only waiting to be heard again. When I reached my door that night, the kitchen was dark, the kettle cold, and I realized the house felt different, as though the brook's voice had followed me home, echoing faintly between the floorboards, stirring the air in little drafts I couldn't quite explain. Next time, we'll open that door together, because what waited inside was more than wind. It was memory finding its way through kitchen drafts in winter. Follow along so you don't miss when the house begins to remember too.